Thank you for coming. It's great to see so many of your curious faces around. Some of you I already know, some of you I shall know after this event when we start with the networking. So don't run away. I want to make a long introduction. This is Todd Sawicki. He has been one of the guys behind Cheezburger on the business side. And he's lately helping Samantha on the biz dev side. So today he's going to talk about locats and strawman and some ways to make product marketing development.
Howdy. So I'm Todd, and I've been, as you said, your English translation would be a real-life television show. So we had a reality TV show that was filmed in the Cheezburger's offices, and that's the promo shot. It was called LOL Work. You can download it in BitTorrent. It's not going to get over in Europe. But if you want to see what I look like on television, what it's like to work on Cheezburger, you can go watch the show. Appearing on a TV show is an interesting experience when friends get to make fun of you and make animated GIFs about your life. So the idea behind Cheezburger, more properly the company's name is actually Cheezburger, is the idea of memes. I mean, it's a whole company dedicated to the idea of memes, and I imagine most of the people in this crowd know what a meme is. In English it isn't pronounced meme, it isn't pronounced, there actually is a French word named meme, but it's intended to rhyme with the word gene. Richard Dawkins is a biologist who came up with the term in the 1960s, and the idea is, behind a meme is it's an idea that spreads from person to person, much like genes spread from generation to generation. And so by definition, a meme has to be an idea that is shared socially, which is in part why they're popular online. So I think we can all agree, at least to the internet generation, memes are fairly mainstream. We can get into some of the more popular ones. I could probably say, since we just looked at calendar 2013, but a big one, this is by Gasper, I say raise your hand. He created a meme Tumblr site for animated GIFs. This is a reaction GIF where you put a headline, and you can sort of get the joke. So this is Gasper's site. How it's doing reasonably well, and it's dedicated to the idea of living in Slovene. They're laughing, Gasper. You can feel proud. So he's as you can see, 118 tweets for something posted 9 hours ago. So this is doing fairly well. And it's a Tumblr site, which is a platform where you can make your own meme sites as well. But more popular things, and the point about saying memes are mainstream, and why something like Cheezburger can be a business and make millions of dollars off pictures like this, is because they're funny. So one of the more popular memes is Irmagerd, which in English is actually a reference on the phrase, oh my god, except when you wear braces you can't say oh my god correctly, so you say Irmagerd. And so basically the idea of memes is, the more popular notion is taking pictures that you recaption. So you would take the same picture, gets recaptioned by thousands of, if not millions of users again and again and again, basically trying to make their own version of the Irmagerd joke, which is what the meme is. This is Mr. Bean. As you might know, he likes to say, you know what I mean, and wink. So these are references, so it's an idea of, this is a very popular one at the moment. And then this meme is called Overly Attached Girlfriend. And the idea here is she's constantly harping on you the viewer are the boyfriend. And so this is the comment of she were overly attached, a whole meme on the concept of girls who were checking up on you way more than they should. And the basic idea behind that is they're funny, and even those of you where native isn't your English isn't your native language, you're still able to find humor, and the whole point of humor is relatively universal. And we make the comment online. The most popular thing online is sex. The second most popular thing is humor. So why did, and the larger point is what are people doing online, and how did Iconess Cheezburger, the site that started with thousands of silly cat photos, turn into a business that does turnover in the tens of millions of dollars a year, that's raised $35 million, now $40 million in investment money. Why is that the case? Well, it's because of this thing, social networks. People are now spending, some estimates are 50% of all time spent online is spent on social networking sites. And what's interesting is that what do you do when you go to a social networking site? You share stuff, and the majority of what you share are images. Facebook is the most popular photo hosting site on the web by about a factor of 10. So the reason it bought Instagram is because they were worried about not being the most popular photo site online. Because photos are what you share in social networks. So you can start to see why that was such a strategic, and they would have paid really anything within reason for Instagram. It didn't matter because it was a threat to their point of so forth. And if you do research, outside of personal photos, the most popular types of images shared are memes. So how popular are memes? And there's this larger category that's sort of been developed, this term called internet culture. And memes online are sort of a native form of content to the internet. It didn't exist before the internet. And so there's this larger category now of these internet culture sites, which include things like Cheezburger and BuzzFeed and Tumblr and others. And the point is, this is US stats, not even global. 201 million users, internet users in the United States, which is something, depending upon the stat, there's somewhere between 250 million, 300 million double counts mobile users and what have you. So basically, 80% of online users in the United States are going to internet culture sites to view meme and similar sort of native content to the internet. So suddenly you can go, oh, this silly site that shows crazy cat photos isn't such a silly site, and in fact represents the next generation of pop culture. So one of the things that we often got asked is, so it's really popular, and how do you prove that all that stuff is going on Facebook and what have you? At Cheezburger, we saw from 2011 to 2012, this is daily Facebook shares. Daily pieces of content shared into Facebook. And at Cheezburger, we went from 10,000 items shared per day, a little like 11,000, over to 40,000 in a year. So 40,000 individual pieces of content are getting shared per day into Facebook. And if you were to look at Tumblr and some of the other stats, that's probably a factor of 5 to 10x that. The most visited site out from Facebook to the outside world is Yahoo. The second most visited site is Tumblr. Cheezburger is the 6th most visited site, domain, outside of Facebook, from Facebook. One of the interesting things to sort of take away, and what we're getting to is all the things that led to Cheezburger being an interesting and fascinating business. And we'll get to how we made money, but these are all sort of the facts that lead into it, which is, so memes are mainstream, lots of people visit those sites. People spend a lot of time in social networks. What do they share on social network? Images. What type of images are they sharing? Memes. Well, why are images sharing? And what we found at Cheezburger, in terms of those of you who've ever shared, work for sites and you want to share things into Facebook, and there's a lot of controversy right now at Facebook about what gets shared and how often it gets shared, and are they, the levers of how popular they allow things to get on Facebook. And what's interesting, we sort of didn't necessarily realize this, but as we tested sharing of content in Facebook, we'd share text items and images. We saw that the reach inside Facebook, the velocity that Facebook would share things, was 20 times what other items were. So for those of you who are interested in figuring out virality inside Facebook, I would say you want to share images, and you want to share funny images, and ideally you share things that are popular, things that are popular in places like Facebook, other than your family photos, are memes. The interesting thing so what we figured out at Cheezburger is, the next thing was, okay, so that's great that all this stuff is shared on Facebook, we haven't yet figured out a way to make this a business. And as we started researching this, what we figured out is 32% of people made a purchase after seeing a picture of a product on a social sharing site if you were under the age 34, what we call the millennial generation. What's also interesting is 64% of people are more likely to buy a product from a brand that they've interacted with in a social environment. Okay? At the same time, brands go, well, I'm not funny. And this is from a meme called Text from Hillary. So basically, this whole thing started out as just a picture of this, imagine this without the text. That's all that appeared in some news thing. And then some guy in New York said, oh, it looks like Hillary's texting. And so he came up with the concept of taking another picture of some famous person as if they were texting to Hillary. And hence a meme was born. And if you go text from Hillary's, you'll find thousands of this sort of concept. This is one of my favorites. But the whole point is that you take a very serious person and you can make them very popular through the lens of humor. This is, if you look at Hillary's popularity ratings in the United States, what we call approval ratings, which is basically we do telephone polls in the United States where they ask registered voters, do you approve or disapprove of a certain person, primarily politicians. Her approval ratings went from negative to positive after this happened, and have remained net positive since this and have not declined. In many ways, it sort of humanized her. Prior to this, she was sort of seen as a very impersonal politician. The other way to think of memes, that says free candy, it's a reference to kidnappings of children. The point is, if you wanted to give away candy, this is not how you would do it. And the larger point is we started talking to brands and working with them, was this idea of sort of, you humorless brand, if people like Hillary can become funny, you yourselves can become funny. The next point was, here, if you try to do things online and you act out of turn, the equivalent of the free candy van scrawled in a neighborhood of children, you're going to get flamed for it. You're going to get in trouble. If that person were to show up, in your neighborhood, they'd likely get arrested. And so the message here to brands as we started working with them was, and we've all seen the brands make mistakes online and not represent themselves appropriately, and so this is sort of the message to them. And the larger point is that if brands that have personalities and points of view, in this world where suddenly I have to learn how to market and promote myself not through the lens of ads anymore, but through the lens of content and social media posts and other things, I need to have a point of view, I need to have a personality, and one of the things that if you don't have a personality, if you have a personality, you have a sense of humor, everyone can make a joke. You yourself, humorless brand, have to learn how to tell jokes too. So we sort of came to them and said, look, if you want to develop brand loyalty and market to the millennial generation, the internet generation, netizens for lack of a better term, Beauchamp just turned 30 on Tuesday, so he still fits within this and is only slightly old. I'm a really old guy at 40. We came to the brand and said, here's what you need to do to be successful online, which is, hey, go create fun content, develop a personality point of view, and that leads to engagement with the customers you want, and you'll sell stuff to people, to the generation of people you can't seem to market to online because they don't look at banner ads anymore, they don't watch TV anymore. And this is the sort of thing that you do. And so as an example of one, we ended up going to Toyota, and what's happening with Cheezburger and its whole business model is basically to take traditional ads and brands and turn them into memes. And whether the creation of that meme is necessarily Cheezburger helping the creative agencies and advertising agencies that create these, and we're getting users in this particular campaign, what we were basically asking to do is we gave them a bunch of pictures and said, hey, go caption this, and Toyota will pick the best one and you'll get a prize. And so this is some of the things that they took. And they basically took basic memes. Unicorns is a popular meme character. It says, Yarsh, unicorn baby, your argument is invalid. That's a popular meme. This is a popular meme of totally looks like, where you take regular people and compare them to celebrities, or objects and compare them to celebrities. And then the last is just a lol car, which is take the idea of lolcats and you use the car as the character and talk about the car in an interesting way. And the point is, I saw him chuckle at some of these. It's a way of humanizing a very impersonal brand. In this particular campaign, we got, on the first day that this was launched, Toyota hoped that over the course of 3 months, 3,000 people would create a meme using Toyota content on the Cheezburger sites. On the first day, we had 3,700 people. And so it was sort of and it grew from there and went on. And the larger point is that by basically giving the tools to a group of people who were naturally used to doing and making content in a way that they natively like to do so, you could get people to basically advertise in a way that they'll respond to. And an interesting comment, and what came out of this is this happened now, gosh, a year and a half ago, and is sort of the inspiration for a larger thing around what BuzzFeed and other companies are doing in terms of what's being called native advertising, which is this whole idea of taking regular ads and reformatting them into the format of the site that you're looking at. Unfortunately, there's a recent controversy of, for those of you probably were, Scientology's in Europe. There's an online publication or magazine in the United States. They have an online version, the Atlantic Monthly, and they're now, what's happening, you go to articles, is that people have the ability to basically write an article and buy the distribution of that article on various news sites. Unfortunately, this news magazine, the Atlantic Monthly, allowed Scientology to buy an article, and they basically wrote kind of a puff piece on how wonderful Scientology was to an audience of people who are probably a bunch of atheists. And it didn't go very well. So you have to be careful. This is the future of advertising, not without its perils. this is just an example of the types of brands who are beginning to work with this, and it's sort of, when we talk about the future of advertising online, this is what people are referring to in terms of native advertising. Again, the idea of I can take a traditional ad campaign, reformat it to the places where it's going to run online, and then suddenly it becomes interesting and meaningful. And for companies like Cheezburger, this is how they're making money. This is how you make money from silly cat photos, is that you convince brands that they should turn themselves into silly cat photos. So that was how we built the business. And today, this is a company that'll do, as I said, in the tens of millions of dollars of revenue, reaches 25 million people globally. It does about 600 or 700 million page views a month. So that's the future of advertising. Now the other sort of topic that, go ahead. Yes. So the memes are, yes, you can use memes to, if you're like a random startup, are memes an effective way to promote your brand, your company, and what have you? Absolutely. The benefit of memes as a marketing vehicle is that there are probably about 1,000 active popular memes at any one time. But those memes have audiences. People look for that content. And so for you as a brand, as sort of wanting to promote an unknown brand, the idea would be to find a meme that's relevant to your brand and leverage that built-in audience. And if it's funny, the people, fans of that meme will spread it and share it, and so that's why it's an effective way to do it, is you're basically creating content for a known audience. And fortunately, it's an audience that's looking for people to create new and funny content around that meme every day. So they're waiting for new people, you just happen to be a brand. I could show examples of people creating content, memes around brands, to the end of time. So it's a well-known thing to do. So yes, you can make memes for even unknown brands. We're trying to teach, and in fact, if you were to look at, there's a lot of startups who are now leveraging memes as a means of differentiating themselves and trying to speak to more native millennial internet users. So the other sort of topic that we wanted to, and I'm going to prove a point tonight, which I generally do, which is, you can do every presentation just using memes. So the other topic, we wanted to talk about was this. So I've been working with Zamanta. They're launching a new native advertising product next week, and I started working with them through one of their board members, who's a friend of mine. And they said, okay, we're going to launch this new ad product, and unfortunately, they're not really advertising guys. Andraj writes, semantic algorithms for me. And, both Sean is an ex-journalist and hacktivist who helped start the lab downstairs. And so, as you can tell, I built, a big advertising business. So I got plugged in and they said, okay, Todd, we have this idea, we've been working on this ad product, we want to make sure it works and what have you. And so, when I showed up, I said, okay, so what does this product do? And they went on and talked and whatever, and I said, that's great, but a good method here is to figure out, on day one, is to work backwards from the press release that announces the product. Let's work backwards from there and know what we want to build, and then figure out how to build that as a result. And don't just sort of start with an idea, and then on the day you have it done, figure out how I'm going to market and launch this. And so this technique was sort of developed at Amazon.com. So if you're at Amazon.com, you use this process. Hence, this is a meme called from Scumbag Steve, who's a character. It was a guy at a party. He dressed up like a hip hop artist. He wore a hat backwards and went like this, and he looked like a douchebag. And so he became Scumbag Steve, and it's a character basically just what would a douchebag say to comment on things. But his hat has now been taken and converted into its own sort of meme, and you stick this hat on anything. So this is the Scumbag Amazon meme that someone at Amazon built, hence the 25 orders you get free shipping, but nothing's above $25. So that's the example of how to use memes for branding almost anything. So the idea here is that Battlestar Galactica, right? So this is the meme is step 3 profit. It's a reference to South Park and the underwear gnomes. steal underwear, I don't know, profit is the meme. And so here, the basic idea here is you have the idea, you start with the press release, the first thing you do is write that, not a product plan, not demos, not prototypes. If you want to pitch an idea to Jeff Bezos to get funded at Amazon, literally the first thing you have to do is write the press release. Or what you think the press release would be if you what your idea is. The next step is you then go backwards and say, okay, they have a very customer-driven development process of, those of you who are familiar with lean product development, the whole idea between lean startups. I assume the raise of hands of people who understand what lean product development is. Okay, good representative. And then after that, launch. So step one is, and the idea here is, step 3 after launch is profit. So the first step is, this is the breaking news meme. You basically take a picture and this says breaking news and you put the news headline on the bottom. Making fun of Justin Bieber is a very popular pastime in the world of memes. So the idea here is we're going to write the press release. And literally you want to write the press release as if you're sending it out to the press. I'm not kidding, which is, the about section at the end, the headline, double spacing. Like, that's the exercise you want to do. And it's a mantra for this product. The product team and I literally wrote our own versions of the press release for this product that's going to be released next week, and as sort of one of the first steps that we did to this effort. And the reason why is it seems somewhat arbitrary, but writing a business plan is arbitrary, putting a PowerPoint together is arbitrary, and so the larger point in a press release, you're basically trying to identify your key selling points and key product benefits, because in effect you're saying, how am I going to sell this thing, this brand, this product, this so forth. And so it's an effective way of helping you figure out what you're going to build up front. Have discussions, because also what it does is if the members of your team each have to do this, you start realizing the differences in opinion you have, and it begins that whole product discovery process. Aha! These are the things that I have to experiment with and improve. And so from a lean startup perspective, think of everything you're doing as ultimately an experiment. You have no idea is invalid. Take the idea, turn it into an experiment, which means put it in front of customers, and then have them verify your assumptions, your hypotheses, and then at the end of that process, you have a product that you can ultimately launch. What we're trying to avoid, of course, with customer-driven product development is I do not want. Do not want is a popular meme, and it often involves animals dressed up in strange and odd clothing. There are a lot of strange people in the world, I think is the conclusion. But sort of here, I've certainly launched products that I've had product failures, and I imagine if I ask for the raise of hands, I'm not going to make anyone admit that you're a failure. We all have had those things. And so the point of product failures, and the guy behind, for those of you who aren't aware, the guy behind the whole lean startup philosophy, a guy named Eric Ries, is he basically sucked at startups. Right? When he had a failure and a failure and a failure, and his then startup, IMVU, it was very much on the path to failure. And so he said, crap. And what he would do, and by the way, if you talk to the Zamanta guys, the early part of their history is the same thing, is they go into a room with a bunch of developers, and 6 months later, and 300 pizza boxes, and probably a 55-gallon barrel of Mountain Dew Cola, would emerge 6 months later with a finished piece of software. And then they'd go to customers and say, go buy this. And unfortunately, customers generally go, well, that's not what I wanted. Why didn't you ask me? And in effect, that's what lean product development is figure out the lowest cost and quickest version of an idea and putting it in front of potential customers to ask what they want. Now, the reason you want to take an actual product or prototype, those of you, I don't know if it got over here to Europe, but probably one of the biggest debacles of product development of all time is the concept of New Coke. How many of you are familiar with that story? Okay, not many. So in 1983 or 84, Coca-Cola actually developed a whole new version of it. of its, it reformulated their syrup for the Coke. And they showed up one day and announced it to the world and said, we're changing Coke, we're calling it New Coke. And we're going to retire the traditional Coke. And their customers in the world went ballistic saying, well, we don't want new Coke, we want old Coke. And Coca-Cola ultimately in 6 months went from saying in 30 days we're getting rid of the old Coke to developing Coke. That's why Coca-Cola, it's called Coca-Cola Classic, is it dates back to that time frame. And they eliminated the classic part a few years ago, but it was called because they knew Coke. Then they were going to retire old Coke. Then users, all the customers said, no, we don't like new Coke, we like the old Coke. They kept, well, crap, now we're not going to retire it. We need a new name because we have new Coke. So Coca-Cola Classic was born, and within a year, new Coke was finished and complete. Coca-Cola, it spent hundreds of millions of dollars developing new Coke and getting ready to launch and so forth. What had happened was, in the late 1970s and early 1980s, is Pepsi-Cola sales were growing faster than Coca-Cola. So what Coca-Cola did is that they then went to customers, did a bunch of blind taste tests, and determined that people like the sweeter taste of Pepsi over Coca-Cola. So they said, aha, we're wrong, Coca-Cola is slightly more bitter than Pepsi, and so they decided to reformulate Coca-Cola. The problem is that what they discovered after the fact is that people don't make purchase decisions based upon product market research and testing. That in fact, we buy stuff in stores, and we buy stuff with labels and branding and all this stuff, and users don't make decisions in a vacuum. And the result of that was Coca-Cola realized that basically market research surveys are a bunch of bullshit. And so when you do, and the point going forward here is that they had actually gone and taken new Coke in a real purchasing environment and a real drinking environment would have discovered this first. And so the lesson here is you want as real looking a product as you can and a real looking purchase environment as you can to get real product feedback. And so lean product development doesn't mean build a prototype and show your friends. It means build a prototype and put it in front of the world, in front of real customers and users. And then based upon that feedback and their usage and against your hypotheses and key metrics and so forth, you'll get the information to develop your product. So the larger point is here, to lean a startup and Amazon and others, is we have the press release out there, and we're code talk, code talk, code talk. For those who maybe can't read in the back, it says, why do developers wear glasses? Because they can't see sharp. For those who aren't developers, C# is the Microsoft .NET programming language. It's a bad pun, I know. So after you've gone through this and you've sort of, again, press release on the wall. Press release is basically identifying the product features and key benefits that you want to test. You've gone through the environment, you've proven which features work and which features will drive the actual either customer acquisition or customer adoption or sales that you're after. Then you get to go back and launch. It's a cat wrapped in water bottle wrapper. And so you're ready to launch. And the point of launching is, that's a whole separate sort of talk in how you do product launches and what you do and so forth. There's a million different ways to, pun intended, skin a cat. And so this is just the point of when you're done and you've proven and disproven, you've coded and iterated, you're ready to launch. And then of course, we get to write the final press release, and you'll be shocked at how close it is to your original press release. And the punchline here says, retard 9 cat, we found out he shits rainbows. For those of you who aren't familiar with 9 cat, go search it on YouTube. It'll be the dumbest at 15 seconds of your life, but you're probably not. So this is a form of product development. It's an effective form of doing product development. And again, start with what you're going to sell. Write the press release. Continue, lead customer-driven product development. And when you're done, you get to launch and put out another press release, and hopefully to step 3, profit. That's it. Any questions? Comments? We're good?
Yeah, I would ask something.
Go ahead.
I would just like to ask you, how did you actually start out Cheezburger?
So,
I mean, I'm assuming you didn't just zoom off.
the story of Cheezburger is, well, it sort of did. The Asian guy you may have seen pictures of who wears the Cheezburger hats, Ben. The story of Cheezburger is this: Cheezburger comes out, memes come out of how many are familiar with 4chan? All right, half. For the other half, don't ever look at 4chan at work. No, it's the deepest, darkest corner of the internet. You want to go to the /B forum, and if you're psychologically unstable, avoid it. Only the strongest minds and hearts. So the story of Cheezburger is, a guy named Eric decides that he wants to, lolcats of all things become popular on 4chan. Lolcats, these cute, funny cat photo things, right? And it starts out in this deep, dark place of the internet called 4chan. One of the more popular original lolcats is a picture of a cat looking through a drop ceiling, a cutout, and it says, the cat's sticking through, and it says, silly cat is watching you masturbate. So lolcats weren't always so cute and funny, the things your grandmother would send out. I doubt she'd send that one. So Eric decides, hey, I want to send one of these lolcats to my girlfriend. And the one that he sends is the I can has Cheezburger photo. Just the silly cat turning sideways, looking and says, spells it wrong, and what have you. And so he sends it to his girlfriend, and he goes, but before he does, back then, Tumblr didn't exist, WordPress.com didn't exist. So he said he just grabbed WordPress.org, the blogging software, got a local ISP to host it, just registered the caption as the domain because he didn't care, and sent it to his girlfriend. His girlfriend sent it to other people, then a week later people started emailing other cat photos to post, and within months he had hundreds of thousands of people visiting a domain called icanhascheezburger.com. That's it, honestly, that's it. Now, Cheezburger sort of continued along. A guy named Ben is not Eric, so Ben does not start icanhascheezburger.com. Ben eventually shows up because Ben's running a pet blog in Seattle, Eric's in Hawaii. Ben, there's the tainted pet food controversy. China was poisoning pet food. This is about 6 years ago. And Ben is blogging about it. And Ben, so he's running a normal pet news blog, and his site gets like overrun with traffic. And he's convinced it's a DDoS attack out of China. And he's like, those bastards. Ben's a Korean national, so there might be a little bit of Chinese-Korea thing going on at the same time. So he tracks down the source of it, and he realizes what has happened is a user has taken a picture off his site and hot-linked it from I Can Has Cheezburger, and there was so much traffic in I Can Has Cheezburger it killed Ben's blog. So Ben calls Eric and gets him to not, apologize, whatever, becomes friend with Eric. Then, over the summer, Ben decides to help out Eric, and he starts helping him code the site, and the site's getting more and more popular. They decide to launch a dog version. I has a hot dog. Then they launch a celebrity version, which is called Roflrazzi, R-O-F-L-R-A-Z-Z-I, a LOL celeb site. This is now the summer, and it sort of, at this time, if you wanted to make a lolcat picture, you had to go to Photoshop and create it and what have you. And of course, most people didn't necessarily want to do that. And so Ben wrote up basically the Reese's peanut butter, chocolate and peanut butter go well together. The peanut butter to the chocolate of I Can Has Cheezburger was creating a little simple web app that allowed you to caption photos online. And so Cheezburger Growth was doing this, and then that showed up, the caption utility, and it started going like this. So now where the company is probably in about a million monthly users. The next thing that ultimately made the company take off, and it's actually the root of all memes now, is the idea of someone posting a photo, and then basically what happened is a user asked, hey, can I caption this other photo? I don't really have, I know a funny quote for this photo, not for my own. And so Ben and Eric went, that's an interesting idea. And then they enabled the feature that allowed users to caption other people's photos. And then Cheezburger did this. They went from 1 million to 6 million DAU in 3 months. Or MAU. MAU is monthly active users, DAU is daily active users. If you run any internet consumer business, DAU is your ultimate metric. And So that's the sort of, and now the idea of memes, where you take any photo here and add your own caption, dates back to that little web app. And that's sort of the beginning of history, and it's just an accidental look that we have. After that took off, and Ben and Eric, so at that time, the ISP they were on, which was one of these $10 a month ISP, calls them and says, we're going to fire, the customer will fire you, you're doing too much traffic. So then Ben and Eric looked around and said, I guess we have to maybe turn this into a business.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, when did you monetize it?
So we didn't start, the company doesn't start monetizing until fall of 2007, when Ben ends up hosting his site on WordPress. Eric doesn't believe there's a business, asks Ben to buy him out. Ben raises some money to buy him out, and Eric sort of took like a $10,000 check of now a business that's valued north of $40 million. This isn't as bad as the guy who took $800 to get his 1/3 share of Apple, right? It's not that bad, but that's a worse story. For those who aren't aware, there were 3 Apple founders. The third guy took a buyout from Steve and Woz after about a year in, because he didn't believe in the business. And of course, the third of Apple today would be worth, $110 billion. So, whoops. The history. So anyway, Eric took a $10,000 buyout from Ben, and the rest is sort of history. And so we started monetizing with ads. The problem is, what really happened over time is that selling ads against silly cat photos, advertisers want to market against either really well-known, highly professionally developed content sites, until we went through this path of basically saying, hey, you want to be on social networks, you can't get anyone to share your content. We know what's shared and our stuff's popular, so what you want to do is start doing stuff in the way that our fans and our users use, and that's how we turned it into a business.
How effective is advertising on these meme sites? I mean, because I advertise a lot, for example, and I spend a lot of money on that, but the thing that we found on Facebook is that the ads are not effective.
So ads are
for example, if you compare Facebook to, let's say, Google, the ads on Google, the ROI is much higher on Google, obviously.
So what, are you selling
really
products, or are you...
We sell airline tickets. We're
Yeah,
online,
so from an e-commerce perspective, Google is king, and this sort of content is this sort of advertising. So Facebook ads, there's 2 forms of Facebook ads, and there's sort of 3 forms of advertising around Facebook. The 2 ads are, you have the banner, effectively the banner ads on Facebook on the right column, promoted stories in the news feed, and now you have this sort of content marketing where people are basically paying to have content created so that people organically share it into Facebook. Primarily that's brands versus sort of intent marketing, like Google is you're going to be very focused on Google. Though Amazon's trying to, will be a new Amazon's about to launch a big product ad network. So that'll likely be where they're going to allow you to target users based upon their Amazon purchase history. So from that perspective, that will be likely an effective method. This sort of content marketing is effective for brand marketing and brand advertising. Anything else? Yes.
Did the Toyota brand favorability go up with that?
Yes. So that car Yaris, I don't know if they use that brand here in Europe or not. They do. So the marketing campaign was to target 18, 34-year-olds. And effectively what their market research told them, it was, this is a car for people who don't like cars. Right? I need a car, but I don't like cars. And so they were basically looking for, and it turns out their users were fans of sites like I Can Ask Cheezburger, and they came to us saying, look, we know, they went to other sites too, they said, we know that our target car users are fans of your site. How do we market to those people? We basically said, well, make fun of yourself. And so all we know is it met their sales targets for the year that was on. So we didn't necessarily have access to the brand favorability data.
What about IE? There's humor and IE, Internet Explorer?
Yes, they're doing that campaign right now as well.
How does that work?
So the IE Internet Explorer is what you're referring to.
Yeah.
So Internet Explorer's done a couple of meme campaigns. The current one that they're doing, which is effectively remember the 90s, right? And so there's a lot of nostalgia memes that sort of show up, and I don't know how effective that is now. But it's sort of generally, brands have a very difficult time getting you to share brand content. And what they're realizing is that, hey, I've got to leverage other things that you're sharing, to the earlier comment. If I leverage meme formats that people are already sharing, they're more likely to share them. And rates of you go from no sharing to some sharing.
Even if it's bad press.
Even if it's bad press.
Can such campaigns backfire in a sense that totally wrong message?
Well, yes. This is if you pick the wrong meme and wrong format, it's the equivalent of, to go back to that's sort of the point of the free candy, right? That's the equivalent of what you're talking about. So you can, if you were to adopt like the Ermengarde meme, not realize what the point of that meme was, and you try to use it for your brand, and didn't use the funny language, whatever, you'd end up at a flame war in Reddit, and getting made fun of and laughed at and mocked instead of sort of loved and embraced.
What is when you pick a meme, where's the limit of being PC versus like, just like being cool? I mean, because I'm thinking of doing something, and the question is like, how far do you go before you offend people? I mean,
well, the answer is it depends. I mean, in meme land, there's some pretty racy stuff that goes on. But I think that the idea is, I would suggest whoever's going to do, if you're the person developing the campaign, I would suggest get good at creating memes before you do it for your brand.
right.
And there's lots of ways. So go to the meme sites. There's Cheezburger, Quick Meme, 9gag, and Reddit, and others. Start creating memes in a meme you want to use, and see how you do. Try the joke anonymously first. If you are true. If you want to understand about a meme, there's a site that Cheezburger actually owns called Know Your Meme, which is the Wikipedia for memes, and explains what a meme is, and basically all the rules for and the mores around it. So go to knowyourmeme.com, and you can look up sort of the history of meme, and that's a good guide for basically how does this meme work. Anything?
You spoke about business to consumer advertising.
Yes.
And millennial kind of target audience. Does this relate to B2B as well, or a little bit maybe?
The answer is, it can work. B2C, the difference is a matter of scale. If you were to go to a trade show and you wanted people to stop and look at your booth, putting a meme up would be an effective way, if it's funny and done right, to get that person who wants to stop. Right? It's just humor. And the point is, the larger point is that humor is universal, and it's and online, it's a more effective form to play serious things. It's not that they don't do well, it's just they're not as viral necessarily. Like, it's a serious topic, it's informative, you probably have to find someone who's really interested in that. If they're really interested in that, being serious and factual and what have you has its place. Long-form blog posts, right, from a Google perspective. But just as a generic, hey, I want to get you to stop and pay attention to me, memes have even at a trade show, there's lots, if you go to trade shows, lots of meme-like content in booths to get you to stop and pay attention. So, it's just probably, location and topic is whatever relevancy.
Yeah, I guess you have to be careful. If
yes.
you're like pharmaceutical,
you definitely might be, right.
Something
yes.
that maybe others not so.
Correct.
What happens when all the brands do this? Like, does this scale?
I think that there's millions of meme content that gets created every day. So everyone's doing it. You're competing against everyone else to be the best. Like, are you good enough to get attention? And you're not always going to be the one who's the funniest. But when you are, you're going to get a lot of attention. So it's more of it just forces you to participate and maintain that. There are users who basically their whole life is about getting on like the homepage of Cheezburger or 9gag, which is another site based out of Hong Kong. That's like a cheeseburger knockoff. And so users compete with each other, like power users, to end up getting featured on the homepages of these sites and these communities. And so if you're a brand, you're already competing against them. So just if there's more brands, so be it. Just be funny and better.
I've seen there are a lot of new sites like all about like 9gag. There are force sharing user accounts on Facebook, and they are really getting the traction because they force the users to share. Is this a good idea to build a site like this?
To build a site leveraging Facebook and being aggressive about it, the answer is maybe. Like brands, you probably risk backlash. against that. You probably have to be a little more sensitive about that. There's already a lot of commercialization around Facebook. If you're just a generic sort of B2C site, Facebook, and sharing into Facebook's an effective way to get virality. But there's a fine line because if you force it too much, then users feel burned out. They might share once, but they're not going to do it again. So it's sort of, you have to experiment to see how far you can push that. Go ahead. Okay, ask what we just next.
Do you have any idea, or what do you expect? How long this is still going to work until someone new comes?
Well, there's popular new memes emerge all the time, and so the basic construct of taking a photo and captioning it, or taking an animated GIF and writing a headline around it, that sort of, as long as you are aware of how tastes change, like comic books, what's popular today will be different than tomorrow, but comic books are still popular. And so think of memes as more of a larger construct of the thing that's popular today might not be popular tomorrow, though the sort of the cultural movement is probably here for a long time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, because usually in a couple of years the market gets saturated with this stuff. So do you think it's still going to be interesting? Or
I think this is the comic book of the 1834-year-old generation. I mean, lolcats are still popular, and they go back to 2006. Fails, in terms of the fail stamp on photos, date back to 2007. Animated GIFs actually date back even more. Animated GIFs go back 20 years and are sort of resurfaced as being popular. So,
fail movies are kind of extinct. I don't see them so much.
There are other memes that sort of think of a meme in many ways as a band. Some bands, are popular, are one-hit wonders and are popular for a month. Other bands are popular for years, and even old bands can re-emerge at any time. So failed memes are still popular just from a Cheezburger traffic perspective because it owns failed blogs. But it doesn't mean that as it declines a little bit over time, that it's not unpopular. In part, the market's gotten so much bigger than what it was 5 or 8 years ago. So.
I was just wondering how does this pop culture of memes adoption in a specific region influences the successfulness of this advertising campaign. For instance, I imagine that memes are not as popular in Slovenia as in the States. Does it make sense for, I don't know, advertisers in Slovenia to start?
I'll push Gasper's thing again.
Thank you.
He's very proud, and rightfully so, proud of it. So you have the same cultural challenges of anything, right? In terms of your base Slovene language market is 2 million people.
Yeah.
So you're by definition, by doing it in a particular language or particular culture, you've got a limited market size. And it's not that memes are popular. It's just that given the cultural differences around humor, they're very language based. It's in an underserved market. You could. It sort of being early, you could do very well. The challenge you have versus if you've done this in English, is the number of English speakers in the world is couple billion plus versus 2 million Slovenes. So I think that's the challenge of it's a target market, and just deciding that just like for content, whether it's movies or music, it's the exact same challenge. Memes will just like certain music types eventually end up everywhere if they're really popular and good. I'm sure there's Slovenian hip-hop artists at this point. It probably took 10 years longer to get to hear than in the United States, for instance. It's just sort of it requires someone in that local market to want to adopt it. But I think the notion of meme content is such a part of social networks at this point that I think it's fairly universally understood.
I have one question.
Yes?
You say that the pictures must be humor. What about compassion? What if your brand is connected with some big social issue, that supports some issue? I'd like to address some audience with that.
So there's something that I haven't talked about yet that is, so from the larger point of how do you use memes. There's another tactic which is, I don't necessarily have to create meme content. Like here, Gasper is not creating these GIFs. These GIFs exist. They're generic. And what he's doing is he is writing the headlines. But what he could just as easily be doing is curating, which is finding this content elsewhere and just aggregating it. So I could be taking a meme, and so if you're interested in a cause, you can aggregate content, whether it's serious or not serious, and that could be another approach, which is find things related to a particular topic, and that is another very effective approach. And Cheezburger, we didn't actually make the content. Our users did. Our job was to look at their pool of submissions every day and find the best 1% to post and feature on our homepage. And so, if you're a brand, you can be doing the same thing on your blog or on your Facebook page, and effectively use that as to say, hey, I care about a topic. I'm going to curate content around that topic. And now it just so happens that if you curate meme content, you might, hey, occasionally I'm going to put a funny meme on because I know it's going to be popular, viral, get lots of shares. But the rest of my content might be serious, and I'm going to use that meme content to get people to come to my page and look at the larger topic that I'm trying to adopt or promote. So curation is a very effective try. You don't have to ever create a piece of content. Aggregating content on the topic is a legitimate approach to content marketing and meme marketing, whatever you want to call it. Meme marketing is a subset of content marketing. So just as a larger category, curation is a perfectly accepted method. Yes?
How do you handle the copyright issues with pictures?
Well, there's two approaches. If you're a brand, you cannot care. And the other hand, if you're using it in an ad format, you likely have to get copyright permission to use that. And so the loophole is that Toyota, for instance, gave us those car pictures. So it was easy to say, oh, that's their asset. Users can use it. The other thing is that what they'll often do is they'll say, great, Cheezburger, we'll let to point of curation. We'll pay for you to curate something, and we'll sort of say, hey, brought to you by X at the top of the page, and then none of that content is owned by that brand or technically used by that brand. And so that's sort of how you can get around copyright issues. Because curation is something where you aren't necessarily, as long as you're not reformatting and touching the image, you're just using something that's already online. Now, if someone sends you something that says take it down, the standard practice is to take it down. But if you format it and touch it, you have to get copyright permission. So stock photography is sort of a way around that. So you look for memes that allow you to use any photo, and then you just license them from Getty Images or Corpus or others, and then you have rights to use it for your campaigns.
So actually putting text or captions on it is not considered as modified?
Well, it's for non-commercial use in the United States you can do that. European laws are a little different. It's similar, but if you're a commercial brand, you have to get, even just adding captions to another image, you have to get permission to use that.
What about use the site and post them?
Well, again, users are different in terms of you're non-commercial. That's the big difference here. You're a brand, you're clearly commercial. And so if you use something without permission, you're going to get sued. If you're a random user, no issue. They'll just, if they don't like what you do, they'll ask you to take it down. There's no point in suing. There's no value to it. It's not like there's any.
You as a site, you're not exposed.
Depending upon it's sort of different countries, EU, not EU, US, not US. In the US, you wouldn't necessarily be exposed if you're a hosting site and you're willing to take it down. You wouldn't have a problem.
Do you have any problems with animated GIFs from movies?
You potentially, most of the studios are letting it go under the notion of fair use. There's a notion of fair use in U.S. law and in English law. Fair use in Europe isn't a well-defined concept. Basically, fair use in the United States says if you can it's within your rights as an artist to parody or satire something else, as long as you're not using the whole form of it. So sort of snippets work. And U.S. law has sort of said that snippets aren't the whole content. They're sort of, and you're getting commercial benefit because someone's promoting your thing, and you have some rights around that. Most studios have come to realize that this is likely a net promotion, and so they've sort of taken it, short snippets are okay. They still can say take it down. If they say take it down, you can take it down. Fair use there's some fair use arguments here. You can decide to go to court and do this in the States. Europe does not have the concept of fair use. It's a purely US concept. Asia, I mean,
But
who knows?
it does different countries, but Slovenia, for example, has a concept of parody and using a copyrighted word for parody, as long as it's not commercialized.
The commercialized problem is where it gets weird.
But this is commercialized. You get money from X.
That's sort of maybe not. It depends. That's a consult your local attorney sort of question. I don't play one. I didn't play one in a reality TV show. I didn't. So, none of the above. Sean.
So you said that so Cheezburger is worth now $40 million.
Yes.
Can it be made into $1 billion company?
Sure.
How?
Just get bigger.
Okay, but with the same model, just scaling it.
I mean, in effect, what Cheezburger is turning into, and lots of internet publishers, the concept of nature of advertising is that an advertiser comes to you and says, "Oh, your news site. I'll write a news article for you, and I want you to distribute." And it talks about a commercial topic. It might be a cause article that you're just trying to promote, and so forth. And so Cheezburger can say, "Hey, I want to distribute funny things. I'm a platform for distributing content." And so brands and commercial brands are basically realizing that what these publishers offer is distribution to an audience, to content. And so Forbes.com, as an example, does this aggressively. Huffington Post does this aggressively. The idea of taking content written by a brand or written for a brand and then running that as if it were a regular article. And so for Cheezburger, the more people that show up, you could, if you get to the point where probably 20% of content on the site can be commercial. So at that scale, if Cheezburger can achieve the popularity of, let's say, ESPN for sports, you're $1 billion company. I think that's it.
Well, thank you very much. Hope to see you back in Ljubljana sometimes. And for everybody else, don't go home. Network not going to be around for some more time, so if you have more questions, just pull him aside. And hopefully we'll have some more speakers next time. If anybody else brings, your company brings any interesting speakers, do let us know and we'll organize something like this next week, next month, or next week. Thank you.
It's honestly, Cheezburger and this is making sense.